every question in the end. Second, every participant is requested to keep their mic mute. Most engaging and interesting during the sessions, we will get an appreciate letter for our side. Therefore, the winner name will be announced at the end of the sessions. Last, a feedback form will be shared in the chat box. Now, over to you, sir.
Thank you so much, Abhishek, for that wonderful introduction. And good evening to all of you. I hope all of you are doing great. Before we continue any further, if you are able to see me properly on the screen, if you're able to hear me properly, and if you're also able to see the slides in the background, if you're able to do all three, I would request you to drop me a comment yes in the chat box so that I know that you're all with me. If you're able to see me, hear me, and see the slides in the background, just drop me a message yes in the chat box so that I know that all of you are with me and you're able to see me, hear me, and see the slides properly. Perfect. Thank you so much, everyone. So first of all, a warm welcome to all of you. Warm for two reasons. One, it's a great evening. Second, warm because we are going through one of the toughest and one of the most hottest periods in Indian history. So it's quite warm everywhere in India, unless you are in one of the hill stations currently. But it's great to connect with all of you. And today we're going to talk about this topic called the brand called you. But before we talk about the topic, a little bit about who I am, because it's important for you to know who your facilitator is. So my name is Dr. Ramnath Dixit. You can simply address me as Ram, that's R-A-M, very simple to pronounce and even more easy to remember. And I've been in the industry for about 20 plus years now. I started my career with operations and then transitioned into business development. And for more than a decade and a half, I have now been conducting behavioral training interventions for the corporates as well as institutions across the world. And I specialize in an area called training transfer, where I work with organizations and individuals in terms of helping them apply their knowledge back at the workplace or in their personal life after they have attended a training program. Okay, so I hope that today's forum will be of great utility for all of you, and you'll be able to pick up some nuggets of wisdom which you can apply either in your personal life or in your corporate career or in your student life or a bit of everywhere, right? So without any further ado, let me help you understand how best can you take maximum value out of this entire workshop. So my request to all of you would be to maintain a small diary or a notepad. If you don't have one, quickly grab one. And how it help you? So any point in time you feel that there is an important insight coming up, please do make a quick note of that so that you can reflect upon that anytime in the future, right? And that would be of great help for you in terms of revising, refreshing, and reflecting upon the insights that you gather from today's workshop. So feel free to maintain a diary. I would not tell you what to make note of and what not to. That's perfectly your choice. But do make your notes, because that is the only way you will remember what we have done here in the forum today. Okay, so let's get down to business and let's understand what is it that we are going to cover in today's topic. So today's topic is called the brand called you. Before we talk about the topic, I would want to understand from all of you, what is your understanding of this term called brand? It's a term that we often hear day in and day out. So I want you to tell me, what is your understanding of this term called brand, B-R-A-N-D? Anything that comes to your mind, please use the chat box. Do let me know your thoughts about it. You cannot be wrong. It's your perspective about this thought called brand. So what is brand? I look forward to your comments in the chat. Let's see what comments do we get here. So you need to drop in just a few words. You need not put in the entire sentence. This is basically to let us know what is your idea about this concept called brand. Goodwill, identity of a particular firm that separates it from others. Okay, thank you, Piyush. Thank you, Ashwini. Anybody else would like to comment? What is brand according to you? Come on, others, give it a try. Whatever you think. I'm not looking for a textbook definition. Okay, signature, image. Fair enough. Thank you, Saurabh. All right, so everyone has their own interpretation of what a brand is. I want you to now look at a small clip. I'm going to share with you a small clip here. And I want you to look at this clip and then tell me what do you understand after looking at this particular clip. Okay, so let me play the clip for you and sit back and enjoy this. And do let me know what do you think about this particular clip. Okay, so give me a moment as I play this for you. Abhishek, if you could just quickly confirm if this is visible and audible to all. Is this visible and audible?
Yes, yes, yeah.
Okay, perfect. Let's continue. All right, so this is just a basic introduction of what we recognize as brands. So when you look at this, what are some thoughts that hit your mind? These are some very popular organizations across the globe, which we understand are very popular brands. So any thoughts that crop up in your mind, I want you to share that in the chat box. When you look at this clip, what are some of the thoughts that cross your mind with regards to brands or branding? Whatever comes to your mind. This is an open forum, so it's important that you share whatever you want to share. Feel free to share that. There is nothing wrong in sharing. Digital marketing, fair enough. So we see digital marketing here. Any other thought, anything else that you could identify or could believe that this is true about branding? So right now we have 29 people in the forum and only 1 or 2 people are commenting. So I'm not sure what the rest of us are doing. Either we are thinking about branding or we have no clue what branding stands for. Okay, come on. We are getting some comments now. Trust, emotional or psychological connection. Perfect. Very good. Anything else that you can associate this with? All right. So can anybody here tell me and you can think about your own self. Why is it important for us to become a brand? We have seen organizations become a brand. We have seen companies become a brand. We have seen products and services become a brand. Why is it important in today's world for us as individuals to become a brand? What is the necessity? Why should we become a brand? Can anyone share that? Why is it important for individuals like you and me to become a brand today? What happens if we don't become a brand? Isn't it okay? Any thoughts on that? To be a monopoly, okay? It builds trust and reliability. Yes, absolutely true. When you become a brand, people trust you, you become more credible, and therefore people respect you for that. Now, if you see the fundamental difference between any product and a brand today is that a brand can be easily recalled. So for example, when I talk about coffee, coffee is a very generic product. But when I say Starbucks coffee, everyone knows what Starbucks coffee stands for. Not just in India, not just in the US, but across the world, Starbucks coffee is a product that people associate with. In fact, if you have a cup of coffee at Starbucks, you would go and tell 20 other people, you know what, yesterday I had a cup of coffee at Starbucks with my friend. Why would you do that? Because you become a part of that brand. You own that brand. There is a psychological connect with that brand. Similarly, when you become a popular brand, when you become a credible brand, people want to hang out with you, people want to do business with you, people want to employ you, and people want to, in general, have your company. And that is why in today's world, no matter who you are, whether you are a student, whether you are a teacher, an entrepreneur, or for that matter, even if you're working within an organization, it's important to brand yourself, right? And that is what we're going to talk about is what are some of the things that we need to do in order to establish ourselves as a proper brand. Now, before we understand what are the things that we need to do in order to become a brand, it's important to understand in a generic sense, how does the process work? So you don't become a brand in a day. Take a look at some of these images on your screen now. So usually what happens when you're good at certain product or a service, you have to talk about it. So for example, in this picture, you can see the guy telling the girl, you know what, I'm a great lover and I can prove it to you. But the girl says, why should I trust you? The boy still emphasizes, no, you have to trust me. I'm a great lover. I'm a very faithful lover. So what is happening here? It's only one person trying to talk about what he or she is good at, right? This is typically what happens in marketing. So in marketing, you talk about your pluses, you talk about your merits, you talk about what you are good at, but you still haven't become a brand. Why? Because it's a monologue. So for example, not every product that advertises becomes a brand. There are many companies who advertise. There are many products who advertise, but every product doesn't become a brand. Similarly, if you tell people that I am good at something, that does not make you a brand because you're only marketing yourself. You still haven't become a brand. So what happens after marketing? After marketing, we get into the zone of public relations. So what is public relations? You say, okay, you don't trust me. What you need to do is you need to talk to my friend. You need to talk to my brother. They will tell you that I'm a reliable person. I'm a very credible person. I'm a good person at heart. So now, along with yourself, you're also gathering testimony from other people. And that is what we call as public relations. Even in business, when you do a good job, you ask people to share testimonial. Or for that matter, when you take a product or a service from a particular company, they would ask you to give them Google reviews. Why do they do that? Because they are basically telling you, it's not just us telling that we are great, even our customers believe that we are great. Similarly, it's not sufficient for you to say you are great. Even others need to say that you're great at something. And that is where public relations comes into picture. And then you don't stop at that. You repeatedly keep talking about what you're good at. Okay. So you keep repeating what you are good at. So if you do it once, it becomes marketing. But if you do it repeatedly over and over and over again by using print media, by using television media, by using different forms, you keep repeating the same point so that you create a hammering effect, isn't it? And advertisements do that. And that is where advertising comes into picture. You're repeatedly talking about what you are good at. And then finally, the other person says, okay, I trust you. I understand that you are a good brand. I understand that you're good at something. Okay. So branding is an exercise which takes time and it's a consistent exercise. When you repeatedly do something really well, better than most of the other people, and you recognize it, others recognize it, and you repeatedly talk about it, that's what builds a brand for you. Okay. So I'll repeat what I said. When you repeatedly do certain things well, you know it, others know it, and you keep on talking about it over and over again, that's what builds your individual brand. And that is why, if you look at some of the experts, their concept of branding, I want you to take 10 seconds and read both these definitions. I think they're perfect when it comes to what is self-branding, what is individual branding. One is Tom Peters and the other is Guy Kawasaki. I want you to take a moment to read this and tell me if you find something important here. Okay, so take a moment to read these two definitions about self-branding. Isn't it interesting? So it's a process. Branding is not a one-time activity. It's a process through which individuals differentiate themselves. How am I different than the rest of the other people? For example, when you go for an interview, you're essentially doing self-branding. You're basically saying that, look, I am a better candidate as compared to the other 20 candidates sitting outside. How do you do that? By talking about what are your strengths, by talking about what are your accomplishments, by talking about what other people think and feel about you. So you're using all of that to create an impression in the minds of the interviewer, and you're trying to prove him or her, how are you a better product? Because in the marketplace, you are selling your services. You become a product or a service. Similarly, as Guy Kawasaki says, it's not sufficient just to say that I am a brand. Others need to say that you are a brand, which means others also need to see you perform consistently. Unless there is consistency, nobody would treat you as a brand. Isn't it? So look at some of these statements, which we often use for companies. And then ask yourself, if you are a company, if you are a product as an individual, what would your friends say about you? What is it that your parents talk about you? What is it that your teachers talk about you? And if you're working somewhere, what is it that your colleagues or your employer talks about you? Okay, so think about it for 10 seconds. And I want you to comment about it in the chat box. So what do I want you to comment on? What is it, according to you, that people think about you? So I want you to write down 1 or 2 words that people use to describe you. For example, people might say you are a very trustworthy person, correct? So that becomes your brand. You are a trustworthy person. Or somebody might say you are a very creative person. So creativity is something that people associate you with. Someone might say you are a very brave person, very courageous. That becomes your brand. So based on what you've heard others say about you, I want you to share in the chat box what word, what adjective do people use in order to define your brand. Okay, so take 10 seconds, think about it, and I want everybody to participate in this. Helpful and mysterious is what Piyush says. Okay, Ghanshyam says Chupa Rustam. Okay, great, excellent. What else? Come on, others. Everyone would have their own thoughts based on what you think people call you or address you or believe about you. Terror, okay, terror. Someone who's really going to make people afraid of him or her. The go-to person, excellent. So if I need something, I will go to Naina because I know I will get my answers. Perfect, excellent. Others, those who haven't commented so far, I would also want you to comment. What is it that people consider you as? Mrs. Cool, and who never says no. Okay, someone who is always willing to help in some way or the other. Okay, any other comments? Anybody else would like to comment about what you think people believe about you or think about you? Yes, absolutely. And what people's beliefs are is what is the brand that you have created. So sometimes people might have a wrong notion about you. So if you think people have a wrong notion about you, it is therefore important for you to go and rectify that notion. Otherwise, it will create a wrong brand image about you in the market. When I say in the market, in the society at large, right? That's why it is important for you to know what is it that people are thinking about you. So every now and then, good idea to ask your friends, hey, how would you define me as a person? Yeah, because that will help you understand what do people exactly think about you. So ask that question to people and you'll have clarity about what is the brand image that you have created in people's minds. Agreed? Okay. Now let's look at how do I as an individual brand myself. So before I try and help you with some tools and tips on this one, I would want you to think about this and tell me, how do you think you need to brand yourself? And what I'm going to do here is I'm going to give you a choice. If you want to, you can switch on your camera as well. And you can also share the answers in the chat box. Okay. Now, when I say answers, you don't need to be perfect about it. Whatever comes to your mind. How do you think you can go ahead and brand yourself as an individual, as a professional? What can be done about it? So I'm going to share with you some 6 or 7 tools. But before that, I want you to tell me what can be done. How can you brand yourself? What is possible? Do you need to spend a lot of money? Do you need to spend a lot of time? How do you build your brand? Yes, your comments, your responses. I'm looking at the chat box with a lot of eager eyes. By matching our words with our actions, yes, you become what you repeatedly do. So if you repeatedly lie, people will call you a liar. If you repeatedly help them, people will call you a helpful person. So what you repeatedly do becomes your brand. So doing what you do consistently is extremely important. Very well said. To become a poet. Okay. So again, when you are able to come up with something unique and use art as a medium, people might call you a creative person. Okay. And that becomes your brand. Identify your strengths and weaknesses and expertise. And more importantly, once you identify your strengths, it becomes even more critical to leverage your strengths. Doing what you're good at makes you great. I repeat what I said. Doing what you are good at makes you great. That's why it's important for you to know what are you good at, what are your major strengths. SWOT analysis is another process through which you identify what your strengths. So doing repeatedly what you do is what helps you understand what your core strength is. Any other way, anything else apart from this that can help you brand yourself? Okay, fine. So let me now share with you some tools and tips as to how you can build your own brand. Okay, so ready? And this is going to be a very important part. So you better make your own notes as we are discussing this. Networking, yes, Piyush, absolutely. Networking is another way through which you build your brand and convince people about your brand. So one of the first things you start with is professional networking. So what is professional networking? Professional networking is a way through which you connect with the outside world. And there are multiple avenues where you do professional networking. So for example, even when you have an email ID, what kind of email ID you have makes a difference. Okay. For example, if your email ID is, let's say your name is Ajay, just as an example, and you write your email ID saying ajay1234@gmail.com. No, it's not a wrong email ID, nothing wrong with that. But it does not give you a proper look and feel. It does not sound professional. A better one would be ajay.gupta@gmail.com or ajay_gupta@gmail.com. So even small things like that will mean either people remember you or they forget about you. Okay. Even when you go to a corporate forum, for example, which could be a conference, it could be an exhibition, it could be a seminar, that is also a place where you brand yourself. So one of the basic things you do is to have your own business card, also called a visiting card. Now, If you're a student, you may not have much to talk about your designation or your position, but you can still talk about what are your areas of expertise in terms of skills. Okay. Or if you have done any kind of work in the past, based on that, what is your evaluation about your strengths? Even that could be helpful for you to connect with people in a networking forum. So if you're already working with a firm, please make sure that wherever you go, you carry your business card or your visiting card so that you can share that with people. The other important thing is that wherever you're present on social media, how do you project your image? For example, a lot of times I have seen people, even when their photographs appear on professional forums like LinkedIn, the photograph would be them being in a party, right? Or them having lunch or dinner with a group of friends. So what happens is you project a wrong image about yourself because the first impression that you create in the minds of people is that you are a casual, happy-go-lucky kind of a person. Now, nothing wrong with that, but the forum that you are in needs you to project yourself in a professional fashion. So even the photograph that you have in a professional forum has to be a professional one. So look at your photograph on your CV or your resume. Look at your photograph on your LinkedIn platform and ask yourself, am I projecting a proper brand image about myself? Because that creates a first impression, right? If your image on Facebook is the one having fun, enjoying vacation, that is perfectly all right, because Facebook is considered to be a social platform which is meant for fun and sharing. But if you are having a photograph on LinkedIn, which is fun-filled or oriented with vacation, then that may not project a right image for yourself. Secondly, wherever you upload your profile, either on LinkedIn or on Instagram or on Facebook or on Twitter, which is now X, make sure that your profile talks about who you are as an individual. What is it that you like? What is it that are your core strengths? And when you do that, make sure there are no spelling errors, because a lot of time people use what is called as colloquial language. Colloquial language is the language that we use with our friends. Okay, your language has to be professional. So sometimes professional networking will happen face to face. Sometimes professional networking will happen in the form of your presence on these platforms. You got to make sure that you're projecting the right image on all these particular platforms. Okay, so these are some of the basic hygiene factors that will help you initiate your branding in the marketplace, right? Now, let's talk a bit more about social networking, or how do you go about projecting yourself on social networking platforms. So these are some of the popular ones. There could be others as well. For example, Instagram is another popular one. But can you tell me what are some of the rules that you need to follow in order to project yourself as a brand on social media? What can you do on social media to create your brand? I'm asking you. So tell me, what are some of the ways in which social media can help you project a great brand of yourself? Use the chat box and let me know. Whatever comes to your mind. Provide a vault to followers, okay? There are multiple things that you can do on social media. For example, one of the ways you can build your image or brand on social media is to write articles or blogs of an area of interest. For example, if you are somebody who has a lot of interest in technology, you can write articles around technology. You can write blogs around technology, which others could also follow. Correct? That's one way of brand building. Secondly, you can also create your own videos, and video-based content can also be shared with other people. So writing posts, writing articles, writing blogs, or creating video-based content are all formats through which you're telling the world, look, this is my area of expertise. Exactly. What Ghanshyam also has added here is that you can create videos through which you can let the other world know that this happens to be your area of interest or it happens to be your area of expertise. Now, even if you look at Google, uh, today, Google reviews have become very important. You know, when you join an organization, you look about the organization on Google, you search for the organization on the internet. Similarly, when people are about to recruit you, after you complete your education, you want to take a job, people will Google your name. People will look for what the search throws up. Okay, around 80% employers Google their applicants. Okay, which means that whatever you write on social media remains there permanently. So please ask yourself, whatever I'm typing, am I doing the right thing? Okay, so be very, very careful about what you put up on social media. Sometimes we write comments which could be in profane language. What is profane language? Where you're calling people names, right? And that remains on social media forever. So refrain from writing something which will showcase you in poor light as a professional, because that creates a wrong brand image about you. Why? Because it's a permanent record. Okay. Similarly, one of the other ways you can use internet today is by creating your own website. So for example, I am a training facilitator. So what do? I train people, I conduct workshops for them. Now, it is important for me to project my brand both to my existing customers as well as to potential customers. So can I talk to everyone every day and keep telling them about what I do? It's not possible. It's not practical. Therefore, what do is I create a website. So when I create my website, I can talk about my areas of expertise. I can talk about my credentials. I can talk about my qualification. I can talk about my clients. I can talk about all of that. So creating a website today is a very simple thing. Even by investing a small amount, you can create your digital footprint. Okay. So even if you're a student, you can still go ahead and create a website of your own, and you can talk about what are the services or what are the areas that you're good at. Or if you're not into providing any products or services, you can simply talk about your areas of interest. You can talk about your hobbies. And even on your website, you can upload blogs, you can upload articles, you can upload videos, and you can do a lot of other things. How does that work? Even when you sleep, your website is still awake. So somebody or the other is watching your website at any point in time. That becomes a great tool for you to build your brand, because your website would tell the rest of the world that, look, here is a person who is good at doing something. So tomorrow when you go for an interview and you share with them that I have my own website where I keep writing blogs, I share articles on whatever area of interest I have, that creates a great impression on the minds of the interviewer. So a website is therefore called a 24/7 salesperson. So that's another thing that you may want to consider in order to further build your digital footprint. So a website is therefore a great idea. It's a cost-effective idea. Now, all of this in the professional circuit, but we all have friends. We all have people who work very closely with us. For example, if you're a student, you would have your own friends studying with you. If you are someone who has just taken up a job, there would be your colleagues, correct? So whether you have friends or you have colleagues, you're also building your brand in front of them. How is that so? For example, if I call you one day and say, look, I need some help from you. I need some information. Will you please help me? Now, there are two responses possible. One response is, sure, I will help you. Second response could be, I may not be the best person to help you on this, but I can tell you who will be able to help you. Okay. So either you are able to directly help or you're able to guide your friend to a person who might be able to help. What is the worst thing you could do? You could say, no, I cannot help. I can't do anything for you. Now, whatever you respond becomes your brand identity, even in your friend circle. Because in every friend circle, we have some people who are very helpful. We have some people who are never helpful. So even within your circle of friends, you're building your brand. How does that help? Tomorrow, when you do a job search, if you're a helpful person, you can go back to your friends and you can ask them to help you again, right? But if you're an individual who never helps anyone, then that is the brand image that you've created, that you only want to take help, but you don't return that favor. And that's not the kind of brand image that you want to generate. The other thing you can always do in order to showcase your utility to your friends is by giving and receiving feedback. So if any of your friends asks you for feedback, you can give honest feedback. The feedback could be in terms of dressing, in terms of communication skills, in terms of confidence. Whenever somebody asks you for feedback, be honest about it, because your feedback will help him or her become a better individual. If you lie, if you give a feedback which is only going to sound great, but that's not true, then people will not trust you. So even within your circle of friends, what you do or what you don't do builds your brand. That is called peer group branding. And your peer group is very important. In fact, it is said that you are an average of the 5 people with whom you spend maximum time with, right? You are the average of 5 people with whom you spend maximum time with. So if you hang out with people who are liars, cheaters, addict, then you become an average of them. But if you hang out with people who are creative, who are hardworking, who are smart, you tend to become an average of that. So your peer group also defines your brand. The people you hang out with also defines your brand. And that is why we always say, choose your company, that is your company of friends, very, very wisely, right? So don't pick anyone and make friends with them. You have to be absolutely choosy when it comes to selecting who are the people that you want to hang out with. This is one of the greatest ways that you can build your personal brand. Today, we have so many forums available where people can project themselves and go and talk about their areas of interest. For example, how many of you have heard of TED Talks? TED. Give me a yes in the chat box if you've heard of TED Talks. Okay, some of you have heard of TED Talks. If you haven't heard, my request to you is you should watch TED Talks. TED Talk stands for Technology, Entertainment, and Design. What happens in TED Talks? Global experts, people who have gained expertise in their area of knowledge, come and deliver talks on their area of expertise. Now, we may not become a TED Talk speaker immediately because the world doesn't know about us. But there are smaller forums that we can all share our knowledge in. For example, if you're a college student, look for groups within your college or within your university where you can go and share your knowledge. Why? Because when you do public speaking, you help people understand about your brand. So at the same time, you connect with 50, 100, 200, or 500 people, right? So as much as you can talk publicly, you would be able to spread your brand. Now that means you also got to practice a little bit of public speaking. Does it happen naturally for everyone? No. But with practice, we all can become fairly good at it, reasonably good at it. So how do we start? Attend other people's conferences, attend public seminars, attend public forums. When you listen to people over and over and over again, that will also increase your confidence. For example, right now, all of us are attending this particular online forum. So by attending such forums over and over again, it will also enhance your confidence level. So over a period of time, you would also be able to conduct such forums, and that would give you further opportunity to strengthen your brand. Okay, now that's one way of doing it, public speaking. The other way of doing it is also by leveraging social media and combining it with public speaking. For example, I run my own YouTube channel. Now, why do I do that? In what way does that help me project a brand? Now, the services that I offer to organizations and institutions is in the form of training services. Okay. So everybody would want to know, what kind of training do I provide? How do I let them know about it? So if you go to a sweet shop, let's say you go to a sweet mart, there are different sweets kept there. There is a gulab jamun, there is a peda, there is jalebi, there are lots of stuff. Now, before buying, what would you typically do? You would want to take some small element of it and taste it, and then decide whether you should buy more of it. Why? You always like to sample. So if you can create video-based content and upload it on forums like YouTube, on Instagram, on any area of interest, that gives people a sample. And when people get a sample, they are more likely to approach you and ask you, hey, would you do this for us? Okay. Now, there is no one way to know what is the best area you can get into. Whatever could be your area of interest, whatever your unique selling proposition, identify that and you can build content around it. Because today, video-based content is very, very powerful. Especially platforms like YouTube and Instagram are so powerful that people are making careers out of it. Does everyone need to make a career out of it? Not necessarily. But we can definitely look at these tools as a complementary factor to help ourselves brand ourselves better. Okay, so that's a very, very powerful medium that is available in our kitty today, but it will require a little bit of public speaking capability, which will come to all of us if we practice in those directions. Okay, so that is the beauty of it. One very big ignored territory when it comes to self-branding, and this is something which I have personally experienced helps a lot, is to be associated with any social cause that is very close to your heart. So for more than 15 years now, I have been associated with an NGO which works very closely with small children in the context of their health and education. Now, what happens because of that? When you're associated with an NGO, you groom yourself, you learn project management, you also understand what are the grassroots problems that people are facing. Plus, you also network with other like-minded individuals, and you also associate with a lot of other people who are experts in their domain. By doing all of this, you learn a lot about yourself and you also learn a lot about other people. Plus, you can also put your experience of working with an NGO in your resume, in your CV, and that also adds a lot of value to your CV. Today, organizations are looking for people who are holistic in terms of their personality. So when you share in your CV or your resume saying that you have an experience of working with an NGO or being associated with an NGO, that also gives you a very strong push to your own brand. So these are some of the ways in which you can push your brand. Couple of other things that you can try and do, and this will come over a period of time. You need not do this immediately, but as you get more and more experience and exposure, you can also share your experience with the other people. You can write a book. When you write a book, people get to learn from you. That also builds your brand. So today, if you look at many people who have spent 20, 30 years in the corporate world, they are writing about their experiences. They're talking about the mistakes they did. They're talking about their achievements. They're talking about what went well, what went wrong. Why do they do that? Because writing a book not only is a way to make money, it will make you a little bit of money, or it may not, but at least it will help you build your brand credentials. So identify what are your important experiences, what have you learned over a period of time, and you can also put this in the form of a book. If not book, you can start by at least writing articles, sharing your experiences with other people, which eventually might take the shape of a book over a period of time. So some points to close our discussion. Lifelong learning has got no alternative. Okay, so if you want to build your brand, remember your qualification, your credentials will also help you to brand. Even if you have completed your graduation or post-graduation and you've taken up a job or you've started your own business, that does not mean education has ended. You should continue to invest in yourself to continue to build your brand. Okay, because that's the way you will get to know what are your areas of deficiency. So education is a must. Lifelong learning is a must today in order to build your brand. Other things that you can look at is, can you add more languages to build your brand? For example, today, if you can speak in 2 languages, English and Hindi, maybe you can talk to 50 people out of 100. But if you add one more language, maybe you can talk to 60 people or 70 people. If you can talk 2 more languages, you can talk to 80 people out of 100. So the more languages you speak, the more becomes your audience reach. Now, these languages could be local languages, or it could be also a foreign language. For example, if today you learn Spanish, German, or French, you also get more credibility in those markets. That also adds value to your CV. Plus, it also enhances your reach to a global audience. So learning more and more languages is also something that you may want to consider. Okay, that will also help you build your confidence further, right? Being tech savvy. So whether you're using social media or you're using artificial intelligence or any other tool or even your website, you need to be a little bit technology savvy, because technology will help you take your brand to the rest of the world. Today, sitting in the confines of your bedroom, you can communicate with the globe. And that is where technology becomes absolutely important. So use technology very, very intelligently. Relationships will matter. As I've already spoken, your relationship with your colleagues, your friends, your employer, your teachers. Make sure you're consistently in touch with people so that you're always able to build your network. Your network will be a great asset for you moving forward. And I cannot say this enough, but the more you read, the more you'll be able to learn, the more you'll be able to apply. And that will also be a great exercise for you to build a brand. But most importantly, be original. Create your own impression. Don't try to copy paste. Because if you try to copy others, you don't become a brand. You become a brand when you do what you are good at. If you do what others are good at, you don't build your brand, isn't it? Right? So those are a few pointers that you may want to remember in the context of building your own brand. So what we do now is, before we close the session, I would like to open it for a few questions that you may have. So feel free to share your questions. We will try and take a few questions from your end, and I'll try to respond to your questions as well. So if you have any question, you can either unmute yourself and talk, or you can drop me your question in the chat box. Okay, I'm waiting.
Sir, good evening, sir.
Good evening.
Sir,
Yes.
how do we tackle, like, we'll be having our own confidence and few others will be having a good perspective on us. How should we handle those who are on the negative side, or who would like I think are a positive positive strength as project the same positive attitude as a negative attitude towards us?
Yeah. So Sujita, right? Have I pronounced your name correctly?
Sai Sujita, sir. Yes, sir,
Sai
correct,
Sujita.
sir.
Yeah. So Sai Sujita, one thing you need to remember is sometimes people have a wrong perception about you as an individual. For example, in my early days in college, there were a couple of people who are very good friends of mine today, but during those days, they looked at me from a distance and they never spoke to me. You know why? They said, when we looked at you, you looked as a very serious person, and therefore we never gathered the courage to talk to you. And I found it very funny, but actually they were right. So what did I do about it? I decided to make sure that when I talk to people, I smile a lot so that people find me approachable. So sometimes what happens is people have wrong notions about it. These wrong notions need not be negative notions. Therefore, one of the things that you need to do actively is to seek feedback from people. For example, if there are certain people in your life whom you think it's important for you to have a conversation, but they're not responding positively to you, ask them, hey, it seems that you're not willing to talk to me. Is there something wrong? Would you like to share some feedback? Maybe I can work upon it. So by asking for open feedback, by asking for proactive feedback, you'll be able to understand what is it that people are thinking about you. And if you feel you need to change, you can change. If you feel that there is no need to change, then you can simply ignore that feedback and walk on. Okay, so talk to people. I think that's a great way for you to be able to understand what people are thinking about you, and then you build upon it. Does that answer
Yes,
your question?
yes, sir. Thank you, sir. Thank you, sir.
Pleasure. Kindly tell the significance of branded products versus non-branded products. Well, any branded product has a better value in the market. So for example, if you're starting your business or you're working with an organization, if you're an established brand, you will always command a better value. You don't have to unnecessarily bargain with people. But if you're not a branded product, you become a Me Too product. What is a Me Too product? You are similar to everyone. You are easily substitutable, right? That's the difference between a Rolls Royce and a Maruti Wagoner. How many Maruti Wagoners do you see on street? Out of 10, maybe 6 or 7 are Maruti Wagoner. It's not wrong to be a Maruti Wagoner, but you are a Me Too product. You're a very common product. How many Rolls Royce do you see on street? Maybe you'll get to see one in a year, correct? So what is the difference? The difference is in the value that you generate. So the more rare you are, the more branded you are, you will command a better value in the marketplace, whether it is in the context of business, whether it is in the context of finding your own niche, or whether you're employed with some other organization. Yeah. Okay. How can a brand effectively engage with its target market? Oh, that's a great question. So it's very difficult to understand who is your target market to begin with. So you need to ask yourself, what is my area of expertise? And with my area of expertise, what knowledge can I share with others? Okay. Now, once you understand what knowledge can you share with others, then you need to ask, who are the people who will benefit from my knowledge? That question will help you understand who is your target audience. For example, sometimes your target audience might be college students. Sometimes your target audience could be people working in the corporate sector. Sometimes your target audience could be people who are aspiring to start their own business. So depending on your area of expertise, your target audience will keep changing. Once you identify your target audience, then you ask yourself, how do I engage with? Where can I find them? Do I find them online? Do I have to attend events where I can go and meet them face to face? Or what is the other source available? Okay, so these are questions that you need to ask. What knowledge can I share? Who will benefit from this knowledge? And once you've understood that, the last question is, how do I engage and build connect with them? I hope that answers your question, Piyush. Good. Great. Okay. Some of you might want to leave in some time. So before I take the next question, there is one quick piece of information I would like to share with all of you. And this is with regards to an upcoming workshop or webinar rather that we are doing in the next month. So let me quickly share some information to you about this. In this particular webinar that we are conducting in the month of June, we call it cracking the interview. So a lot of times people have no clue about how should they appear for an interview, what should be their dressing, what kind of preparation should they do, how do I respond to difficult questions, and many more. Yeah? What should be some of the parts that I include in my resume? So we are going to address all these questions in an upcoming webinar on the 17th of June next month. And that's going to again take place in the evening from 5 o'clock to 6:30. This is a paid webinar. However, in 90 minutes, you would get a lot of information around how can you successfully crack the interview. So we would definitely look forward to having you during this particular webinar. You can take a picture of this particular slide and later on get in connect with the SEMS team who will further guide you if you wish to register for this seminar. Great. So if there are any further questions as of now, I would appreciate those questions. Else we will close the session. And anytime in the future, if you wish to reach out, you can also do that for me. So what I'll do is I'll share with you my YouTube channel link in the chat box so that if there are other areas of interest, you can always stay in touch with me through that. Or perhaps if there are other areas of interest on which you would want to see videos, I can help you with that as well. Okay, another question coming up. Can you recommend any online platform like TED Talk to enrich my experience or knowledge? Well, there are several platforms available. There is another one called Josh Talks, Josh, which is, I think, an Indian version, where you also have people from different walks of life talking about their experiences. And there is one more called Ink Talks, I-N-K, Ink Talks, where also you have people from different walks of life talking about what have they achieved in their careers. Okay, so those are a couple of them which I can share with you right now. All right, so I've shared my link in the chat box for you to be in touch with me. Abhishek, back to you. Okay, Nena, I
Wow.
missed your question. Could you take me back to what your question was? Okay, branding yourself is a tough task for introvert people. How do I do that in VS? Okay, so remember this. It's okay to be an introvert. Nothing wrong with that. That's not a personality flaw. But remember this. Introvert becomes a handicap when you have to go and talk to people one-to-one, right? But there are many other things that you can do. For example, you can still write articles. You can still write blogs. You can still create a website. You can still work with an NGO. Or for that matter, you can also create video-based content because in that case, you're not talking to anyone. So there are multiple other ways where you don't have to be an extrovert in order to project your brand. Look for those alternatives. And as you gain more and more confidence, then you can also use tools over a period of time with increasing confidence. So don't hold yourself back thinking that I'm an introvert, I can't do anything. No, you can start with small steps. At least write one article every week, put it up on platforms like LinkedIn. That also is a good start. But the important thing is to do it consistently. Even if you do that, that will take you a long way. Great. Okay, so back to you, Abhishek.
Wow, what a wonderful knowledge given by you, sir. I hope audience learns and many new things from these sessions. Thank you for answer for thank you, sir, for answering these questions. That was a very good piece of advice given us, sir. The most engaging person we have found during this session, Piyush Kumar, Ashwin SB Vodka. Now it's time to open your camera and say cheese for making this event more beautiful and memorable. Once again, I requesting you please open their camera.
Okay, can you all switch on our cameras? It's time for a Kodak moment for all of us together taking a click. All right, say cheese, everyone. And we click a photo.
Thank you for thank you for all for attending the today webinar. If you have any additional questions, you can contact us by email or telephone. We are happy to provide additional support to you. Please follow us on the social media and subscribe to our YouTube channels for new learnings. Moreover, for gaining more knowledge and know more about ideas, join us on 7th May on our international webinars on the power of being humble. So see you there. Feedback links already added in the chat box. Please fill the form within 6 hours. Thank you so much for cooperating. Stay connected with us. New learnings. I, Abhishek Galani, your host for the day, and signing off. Have a wonderful day. Thank you.
Thank you, Abhishek, and thank you, everyone. See you soon. Bye-bye for now.
Thank you, sir. Thank you, sir.
Thank you, everyone. Take care.